Good afternoon, guys. Uh, Welcome to Dark Tales of the Mind. I'm your host, Lucian Graves, and I am aware that we've had a rough, last week and a half. Okay, I've probably had it the worst. I apologize for the way I look. I know I'm getting a little scruffy here, and I do apologize for all the delays and everything like that. Hopefully, y'all can see I am a little bit perkier than normal. You know, coming back from something like that definitely changes your outlook on life. Uh, I am still having a little bit of trouble with my breathing and stuff, so I'm hoping that I can get through this without any kind of delays or anything like that in it. Um, Things are going to be a little bit different than normal. Uh, I do have to keep water and stuff like that with me so that, one, I'm not sitting there just coughing on myself because anytime I cough, it's miserable. Okay, like I cough and it feels like my whole intestinal side is just about to explode. So if you see me reach over and I grab my water bottle, I apologize. Just remember that everything I do is all done one take, unedited. It's just it's there, and I don't know why. I've had a couple of y'all point this out to me. It's not that I don't want to look into the camera. It's just I see that red dot on my phone where it's saying like recording, recording, and I don't know why, but like my eyes want to follow to that instead of to the actual camera. Call it ADHD. Call it I don't know. I'm squirrel. I squirrel really hard, and I apologize. It's not that I don't want to look y'all in the eyes. It's my attention span is going there. Okay, and I apologize. But without any further ado, uh, here's the long-awaited chapter 5. It's called The Breaking Point. The phone buzzed at 3:17 a.m. Samuel was already awake, lying on the couch in his dimly lit trailer. He stared at the ceiling, his mind a hurricane of thoughts. Rachel was in the next room, door locked. Neither of them had spoken since the drive home. The silence between them was a loaded gun. The phone buzzed again. He knew who it was before he even looked. Ruiz. Samuel sat up slowly, rubbing a hand over his face. His chest felt tight, like something heavy had settled on top of him and wouldn't let him up. He grabbed the phone and answered. Ruiz didn't bother with pleasantries. Get up, we got work to do. Samuel's pulse quickened. This was it, the test. Ruiz had given him a pass the last night, but that wasn't mercy, it was a leash. And now he was about to be yanked. Samuel forced his voice steady. What's the job? A pause, and then Ruiz's voice calm, controlled. There's a problem that needs to be solving. You'll meet Luis off at the mill off 259, 20 minutes. Samuel exhaled slowly. And what exactly am I solving? Another pause, and then with quiet amusement, a loose end. The line went dead. Samuel sat there gripping his phone so hard his knuckles ached. He didn't need details. He already knew what this was. Ruiz wanted blood, and Samuel was about to prove whether he was really one of them. Samuel stood in the doorway of his bedroom, watching Rachel as she slept. Her breathing was slow, steady, but her face was tense, like even in sleep she couldn't escape this nightmare. He wanted to wake her up, wanted to tell her what? That he was sorry, that he'd find a way out. Lies. Instead, he turned away and left. By the time he pulled onto the highway 259, his hands were steady, but inside there was something breaking. The old sawmill was a rotting corpse of a building, skeletal remains of an industry long abandoned. Samuel killed the headlights as he pulled up, the gravel crunching beneath his tires. Sorry about that. Luis was already there, leaning against his car, cigarette glowing between his fingers. Next to him, on his knees in the dirt, was a man, a stranger, a loose end, a problem that needed solving. The man's hands were zip tied behind his back, his face bruised and bloody. He was shaking. Samuel stepped out of the truck, keeping his expression blank. Don't react, don't think, just do what you have to. Louis grinned. Glad you made it. Oh. Samuel ignored him, looking at the man. Who is he? Louis shrugged. A nobody. Stuck his nose where it didn't belong. Samuel clenched his jaw. They always say that. Louis flicked his cigarette away. Boss wants him gone. You get to do the honors. Samuel felt the weight of the gun in his waistband, the cold metal against his skin. He took a slow breath. This was the test. Luis was watching him closely, waiting to see if he hesitated. Ruiz wouldn't be here, but he'd hear about how it went. Samuel knew exactly what was at stake. Rachel, his kid, any hope of a future outside of a casket. He stepped forward, drawing the gun. The man whimpered, Please. Samuel pressed the barrel to his head. His heartbeat was thunder. The man's breath hitched, eyes wide with terror. I have a family. So do I. Samuel's finger tightened on the trigger, but the face staring at him wasn't just a stranger anymore. It was him. A man begging for his life. A man caught in the world he couldn't escape. A man who had run out of choices. Is this how it ends for me? His chest heaved, his pulse roared. Then a single thought, cold and undeniable. If I do this, there's no coming back. The gun trembled in his grip. Louis shifted behind him. What's the holdup? Samuel's breath came sharp and ragged. His vision blurred at the edges. Do it. Prove yourself. Or die trying. Samuel pulled the trigger. The gun kicked. The sound ripped through the night, swallowing everything else. The man jerked once, a sharp, violent motion, then collapsed onto the dirt. A single bullet to the head, quick, precise, and clean. For a moment, everything stopped. Samuel's breath hitched, his ears ringing from the shot. He stared down at the body, the blood pooling beneath the man's skull, soaking into the earth. His stomach twisted. His fingers went numb around the grip of the gun. There, it's done. Louis let out a low whistle. Damn, he muttered, exhaling smoke. Didn't even hesitate. Samuel swallowed hard. His hands weren't shaking. His face was unreadable, but inside something had cracked. Louis nudged the body with the tip of his toe, with the toe of his boot. Poor bastard. Wrong place, wrong time. He glanced up at Samuel, eyes gleaming in the dark. You good? Samuel nodded once, forcing himself to breathe. Yeah. His voice came out steady and empty. Louis smirked. You're getting the hang of this. Samuel didn't respond because he wasn't sure who had pulled the trigger, him or the person Ruiz was turning him into, sealing his fate. Louis stepped back, stretching. Boss will be pleased. He wanted to see if you had it in you. Guess that answers that. Samuel stared at the body, his pulse a steady, hollow beat. What now? Louis grinned, tossing him a shovel. Now we clean up. Samuel caught it, the weight of it almost as heavy as the gun, still clenched in his hand. He swallowed bile. This was his life now. No turning back. He got to work. By the time they finished, Samuel's clothes were drenched in sweat, his muscles aching from digging into the hard-packed dirt. The grave was shallow, just deep enough to hide what they had done. Louis clapped him on the shoulder. His grip was tight. Welcome to the family, brother. Samuel forced out a nod. He had passed the test, which meant Ruiz owned him now, for good. Luis lit another cigarette and exhaled. Boss has a gift for you. Says you earned it. Samuel's throat tightened. A reward for killing a man? Luis tossed him a small slip of paper. That's your lawyer's number. Call him in the morning. Ruiz already greased the wheels. Samuel stared at the number, the custody case. Ruiz had kept his word. His stomach churned. He was getting his son back, at the cost of his own soul. See you around, killer, Luis said, heading to his car. Samuel didn't even watch him leave. Instead, he stood there staring at the fresh turned earth, the blood still staining his hands. He had done this, and now he had to live with it, if he even could. Samuel stood there long after Louise drove off. The scent of the damp earth, the gun and gunpowder thick in the night air. His fingers flexed around the handle of the shovel. His knuckles pale from the grip. The grave was done. The body was buried. The deed was finished. But the weight of it, the finality, hung in the air like an executioner's blade. His heartbeat was slow, heavy, like it was forcing itself to keep going. He pulled the trigger. He had made his choice. So why did it feel like something inside of him had died right alongside the man in the shallow grave? Samuel let out a shuddered breath, forcing himself to move. He threw the shovel in the back of his truck, wiped his hands down on his jeans, as if that would wash the blood away. It wouldn't. The drive back to his trailer was long and silent. The roads were empty, the streetlights casting hollow pools of yellow on the pavement. He felt like a ghost floating through the night, untethered from the man he used to be. When he finally pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. Rachel hadn't waited up. Maybe she already knew. Samuel locked the door behind him, moving through the house like a stranger. His boots felt too loud on the floorboards, his breathing too sharp in the quiet. He poured himself a drink, something cheap and burning, then sat at the kitchen table staring at the glass in his hands. The lawyer's number sat on the table beside it, a lifeline, a bribe. Ruiz had paid his price, and now Samuel had to cash it in. He downed the drink in one swallow, but it didn't burn enough, didn't numb enough. In the stillness, his mind replayed the moment. The man's face, the fear in his eyes. I have a family. Samuel squeezed his eyes shut. So do I. He had done this for his son, for custody, for a future. So why did it feel like he had sold that future to the devil? The eyes clinked in the empty glass. His hands weren't shaking, and maybe that was the worst part. Rachel's realization. A creak from the hallway. Samuel opened his eyes. Rachel stood in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest. She looked at him for a long time, eyes scanning his face, his clothes, the tension in his shoulders. You were out late, she said. Samuel didn't answer. Rachel's gaze flickered to the table, the empty glass, the folded piece of paper. She stepped closer. What did you do? Samuel clenched his jaw. You don't want to know. Rachel inhaled slow and sharp. I think I already do. A long silence stretched between them. Rachel looked at him like was seeing something new, or something she had been trying not to see for a long time. You're really in this now, aren't you? Her voice was quiet but heavy. Samuel stared at the glass in his hands. Yeah. Rachel swallowed, her lips pressing into the thin line. What does that mean for us? Samuel exhaled through his nose. He didn't have an answer. Because he had just proven with one squeeze of a trigger that there was no getting out. And if Rachel stayed, she would just be as trapped as he was. The lawyer's number sat there waiting. Samuel reached for it slowly, his fingers ghosting over the paper. One call, and everything he'd ever wanted would be in motion. But at what cost? Because tonight wasn't the end. It was only the beginning, and deep down Samuel knew Ruiz wouldn't let him stop now. Not until there was nothing left of him to save. The silence between them stretched, thick and suffocating. Rachel's eyes searching his face, looking for something, an explanation, an excuse, maybe even regret. But Samuel had given nothing. Her voice broke first. Tell me it wasn't what I think it was. Samuel swallowed, his throat dry and raw. Lie to her. Tell her what she wants to hear. But what was the point? She already knew. Rachel shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. Jesus, Sam. She took a step back like she couldn't stand to be near him. You really did it, didn't you? Samuel looked down at the table, the empty glass, the lawyer's number, his reward for crossing the final line. I did what I had to. His voice was low and steady, too steady. Rachel scoffed, running a hand through her hair. That's what you keep telling yourself. Her voice cracked at the edges. That's you had no choice. Samuel's jaw clenched. I didn't. Rachel's hands curled into fist. You always had a choice, Sam. Something in him snapped. His chair scraped against the floor as he stood. No, I don't. His voice was sharp, raw. The frustration clenched, clawing at its way out of his chest. Not when it comes to our son. Not when it comes to keeping this family together. Rachel flinched at the anger in his voice, but she didn't back down. So this is how you do it. Her voice wavered. By turning into them? Samuel exhaled harshly, running a hand over his face. His pulse thundered in his ears. Wasn't this what she wanted? She had begged him to fight harder, to do whatever it took. Well, he had. And now she was looking at him like he was a monster. Maybe he was. Rachel's eyes glossed over with something unreadable. Anger, fear, heartbreak. I don't even recognize you anymore. Samuel's stomach twisted. He wanted to reach for her, to make her understand. But there was nothing to say, because deep down, he didn't even recognize himself either. Rachel took a slow step back toward the hallway, her breath unsteady. I can't do this, Sam. Samuel's chest tightened. Don't. Rachel shook her head. I can't stand here and watch you become someone who... She cut herself off, voice thick with emotion. Someone who kills people like it's nothing. The words hit like a bullet. Samuel inhaled sharply, his fingers curling against the table. It's not nothing, he said quietly. Rachel's gaze softened, but was not with sympathy, with something worse. Pity. You're in over your head, she whispered. Samuel let out a bitter breath. Yeah, I know. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. I just don't know if I can drown with you. Those words hurt worse than anything Ruiz could ever do to him, because they weren't a threat. They were truth. She turned and walked down the hallway, her footsteps slow and heavy. The bedroom door clicked shut, and Samuel was left standing there, staring at an empty space she had left behind. He had done this for her, for his son, for a future. And now, he wasn't sure if he had lost it all anyways. The number sat on the table, waiting. Samuel picked it up, turning it between his fingers. Rachel could hate him. She could leave. But this was still happening. He had killed for this. And once you kill for something, you damn sure don't let it go to waste. His hand was steady as he grabbed his phone. He dialed one ring, two, then a voice, sharp, professional. This is Langley. Samuel exhaled slowly, pressing his fingers to his temple. I need to win this custody case. A pause. Then, you've already won. The line went dead. Samuel lowered the phone, staring at the screen. It was done. Everything he wanted, his son, his chance at fatherhood, his future, it was finally in his grasp. And yet, as he stood there in the dark, alone, the only thing he could feel was the blood on his hands, the weight of a life he could never take back, the shadow of a man he could never be again. Samuel stood there, phone still in his hand, the words, "You've already won," echoing in his skull like a cruel joke. It was done. He had fought, he had bled, he had killed, and now the prize was his. Then why did it feel like he had lost something far too greater? His grip tightened around the phone until his knuckles went white. His breath was shallow, ragged, his heart hammering against his ribs. Rachel's voice still rang in his head, her words sharper than any blade. I don't even recognize you anymore. She didn't have to say the rest. She wasn't sure if she could love him anymore. Samuel squeezed his eyes shut, a deep tremor running through his chest. This was for her, for their son. So why did it feel like he had burned his family to the ground? His feet moved before his mind caught up. He barely registered, walking down the hall, pushing open the bedroom door. Rachel was curled on her side, her back to him, her body tense beneath the blankets. She wasn't sleeping. He knew that because he wasn't either. Samuel exhaled slowly, stepping inside. Rachel. No response. He swallowed, sitting down on the bed. I did it for us. A long pause, then a hollow laugh. For us. She rolled over, her face shadowed in the dim glow of the bedroom of the bedside lamp. Her eyes were glassy, rimmed with exhaustion and something dangerously close to grief. You think this is for us? Her voice was sharp, brittle. You think I wanted this? Samuel's hands curled into fists on his lap. I wanted to make sure we won, that we. Rachel sat up, cutting him off with a sharp glare. At what cost, Sam? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out, because he didn't have an answer. Rachel shook her head, pressing her fingers into her temples. I have spent years fighting for that little boy, trying to do the things, trying to do things the right way. And you, she let out a shaky breath. You threw it all in Ruiz's hands like he was just another one of his deals. Samuel's jaw tightened. And what if we lost? What then? Rachel stared at him. Then we fight harder. We don't turn into monsters. Samuel's chest burned, anger twisting with something deeper, something he didn't want to name. You think this was easy for me? His voice was rough, low. You think I wanted to? Rachel's eyes flashed. I think you didn't hesitate. The words cut deep, because she wasn't wrong. Rachel let out a shuddered breath, her voice quieter now, raw, something painful. The worst part is, I don't even think you regret it. Samuel's throat tightened, his body felt heavy, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. Did he regret it? Did he even know how to anymore? His silence was answer enough. Rachel swallowed hard, shaking her head. I don't know how to love this version of you, Sam. And that was the moment it truly hit. This wasn't about the custody case. This wasn't about Ruiz or the deal or the blood he had spilled. This was about something. This was about who he was now. And Rachel, she was afraid of him. Samuel felt the floor drop out from under him. His breath came short and uneven. His hands shook, his pulse roaring in his ears. He had done this for them, and now he was losing her anyway. His vision blurred, his chest tightened so painfully it felt like he was suffocating. Rachel was still watching him, waiting for some sign that the man she loved was still in there. Samuel wasn't sure if he was. His voice came out barely above a whisper. I don't know how to come back from this. Rachel's face crumpled, something breaking in her expression. She reached out just barely, but then hesitation pulling away. And that hurt more than anything else. You might not be able to, she said softly. Her words settled over him like a death sentence. Rachel. Samuel looked down at his hands like the phantom weight of the gun still lingering in his grip. Rachel stood, wrapping her arms around herself like she was cold. I need some air. She walked past him without another word. The bedroom door creaked open and then clicked shut behind her. Samuel sat there staring at the empty space where she had been. The silence followed. The silence that followed was the loudest he had ever heard. The sound of the front door closing sent a ripple through Samuel's body. Rachel was gone. Not for good. Not yet. But she had to get away from him. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his hands. They weren't shaking. That should have been relief. But it wasn't. Maybe he should be trembling. Maybe he should be sick, clawing at the grief and guilt festering inside of him. But all he felt was empty. The lawyer's words still rang in his head. You've already won. But this didn't feel like winning. Winning was supposed to mean Rachel in his arms, his son back where he belonged, his family whole. So why did it feel like he had just torn everything apart with his own hands? His breath came slow, heavy. His body felt like leaden, as if weighed down by something unseen but suffocating. The silence pressed in on him, the kind of silence that made a man think about everything he was too afraid to say out loud. A man alone. Rachel was outside, probably sitting on the front steps, arms wrapped around herself, trying to make sense of the man she had married. Samuel wanted to follow her, to say something, anything. But what was left to say? How could he look at her in the eyes and explain what he had done? I killed a man, Rachel, and I didn't even flinch. He pushed a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. Ruiz had been right. The first time was the hardest, but after that it gets easier. Samuel never wanted to believe that, but now he wasn't so sure. Because the terrifying part wasn't the act itself, it was how quickly he had justified it. How little it had taken to push him past the point of no return. Rachel had seen it in his face. She hadn't just seen a man who had done something awful. She had seen a man who had crossed over. A man who wasn't sure he could ever come back. And that was what made her walk away. Not the crime, not the body, but the way he had accepted it. Samuel reached for the folded piece of paper on the nightstand. The lawyer's number, his victory. He unfolded it slowly, running his fingers over the ink. This was the end game. The whole damn reason he had done this. He had spent months barely scraping by, watching the court rule against him, watching Rachel's lawyer tear him apart. But now the system was rigged in his favor because he had done what needed to be done. So why did it feel like he had just lost everything? His chest tightened, a slow, dull ache creeping into his bones. Oh, every time that happens, it hurts. Oh. He thought of his son, his little boy, sleeping miles away, completely unaware of the blood his father had just spilled to bring him home. Would he ever understand? Would he ever forgive? Samuel squeezed his eyes shut. Maybe this was the price of being a father. Maybe this was what it took to win. But if that was true, why did it feel like he had just become the kind of man that he had swore he had never become? The air in the bedroom felt suffocating, the walls too close, the silence too loud. He needed out. Samuel pushed himself off the bed, grabbing his jacket and walked out the front door. Rachel was sitting on the porch steps, knees pulled to her chest, staring into the night. She didn't turn when she heard him, didn't say a word. Samuel hesitated, then sat down beside her, leaving space between them. The air was cool. The Texas night was stretched endlessly before them. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Rachel let out a slow breath. "You think he's done with you?" Samuel didn't have to answer. Well, didn't have to ask who she meant. Ruiz, the man who had promised him power, control, and now owned him. Samuel swallowed. "I don't know." Rachel finally looked up at him. Her eyes were tired, so damn tired. "I think you do." Samuel stared straight ahead, watching the dark horizon. Rachel exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "There's always another price, Sam. Always." Samuel said nothing because deep down he knew she was right. And the worst part, he wasn't sure if he could say no to whatever came next. The weight of Rachel's words hung between them, heavy and unrelenting. "There's always another price, Sam." Samuel let the silence stretch, the cool night air pressing against his skin, grounding him. He could feel Rachel beside him, close, but not close enough. Then something shifted. Her posture softened. A moment later, she let out a slow, tired sigh and leaned against him. It wasn't much, just a subtle press of her shoulder against his, the warmth of her body easing some of the cold that had settled deep in his bones. But it was something. Samuel swallowed hard, his throat dry. He didn't move, afraid of if he did, she might pull away again. "I don't know what to do with this," Rachel admitted quietly. Her voice was different now, not sharp with anger or laced with disappointment, but raw and uncertain. Samuel finally turned his head, glancing at her. "With what?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "With you. What you've done, how far you're willing to go." Samuel exhaled. "I did it for us." Rachel closed her eyes for a moment. "I know." She didn't say it was okay, didn't say she forgave him, but she hadn't walked away. And for now, that was enough. Rachel shifted slightly, turning toward him. Hand hesitated. Her hand hesitated, then reached for his, tentative, cautious. Samuel clenched. He didn't mean to, but her touch felt foreign in that moment, like he wasn't sure if he deserved it. Rachel didn't pull away. Instead, she tightened her grip, her fingers lacing through his. "You scared me," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel's chest tightened. He looked down at her hands, at the way hers was softer, cleaner, untouched by the blood that stained his. "I scare myself," he admitted. Rachel inhaled sharply, her fingers twitching slightly in his grasp. "But I don't want to lose you," she whispered. Samuel closed his eyes. He didn't deserve this, didn't deserve her. But he was too selfish to let go. He turned his hand over, squeezing hers gently. "I don't want to lose you either." She let out a shaky breath. "Then tell me there's still a way back." Samuel didn't answer right away, because he wasn't sure there was. But looking at her now, at the only person who still saw something worth saving in him, he wanted to believe it was possible. "I'll try," he said finally. "For you, for him." Rachel studied him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. She leaned in, pressing her forearm against his shoulder. Just for a moment, Samuel let his eyes close, savoring the feeling. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't healing, but it was hope. And for now, that was enough. Rachel stayed there, her forehead resting slightly against Samuel's shoulder, her hand still laced in his. Neither of them spoke. The night stretched around them, the hum of distant crickets filling the silence. For a moment, just a brief, fragile moment, Samuel let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could come back from this. But then Rachel shifted. Her fingers tightened slightly around his. "Tell me the truth," she murmured. Samuel swallowed. "About what?" She lifted her head, looking at him now. The porch light cast soft shadows across her face, highlighting the quiet pain in her expression. "About him. About Ruiz. What happens next?" Samuel hesitated. He wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her that Ruiz was done with him, that this was a one-time thing, that the debt was paid. But he couldn't. Rachel deserved the truth. He exhaled slowly. "I don't know." Rachel's jaw tightened, but she didn't pull away. "That's not good enough, Sam." "I know," he admitted, his voice low, "but it's all I've got." Rachel looked away, her gaze fixed on the dark horizon. "I keep thinking about what you said earlier," she murmured. Samuel frowned. "What part?" She inhaled sharply and then turned back to him. "That you don't know how to come back from this." His chest tightened. Rachel's expressions unreadable, but there was something in her eyes, something deep, something aching. "I don't want that to be true," she whispered. Samuel let out a slow, unsteady breath. "I don't either," he admitted. A long silence settled between them. Then cautiously, Rachel shifted closely. Rachel shifted closer, her head resting slightly against his shoulder again. Samuel didn't move, didn't dare breathe. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. Samuel stared out into the darkness. His pulse was slow but heavy. Did he? Regret the kill, regret the deal, the path that led him here? He wanted to say yes, but the truth sat thick in his throat. "I don't know," he murmured. Rachel inhaled sharply but didn't pull away. Samuel's fingers flexed around hers. "I should. I know I should." Rachel's voice, fragile but quiet. "But..." Samuel swallowed hard, "but it got me what I wanted." Rachel flinched, but she didn't let go of his hands. "That scares me more than anything," she whispered. Samuel closed his eyes. It scared him too, but he didn't say it, because if he admitted it out loud, he had to face the truth. That maybe, just maybe, there was no way back. The night stretched on, but they stayed there, side by side, silent and unmoving. And then Samuel's phone vibrated. Rachel tensed. Samuel's entire body stiffened. He already knew who it was. Slowly, reluctantly, he pulled the phone out of his pocket. "Ruiz." Rachel let out a shaky breath, her fingers slipping from his. Samuel hesitated only for a second before answering. "Yeah," he said, voice hoarse. Ruiz's voice smooth, casual, but beneath it something sharp, something expectant. "Hope you're enjoying your win, amigo. But you and I, we're just getting started." Samuel closed his eyes, and just like that, the weight of reality came crashing back down. Rachel watched him, her expressions unreadable. Samuel didn't speak, because he knew the next test was coming. And this time, he wasn't sure if he could keep pretending he had a choice. Samuel brought the phone to his ear, his breath slow and measured. "Hope you're enjoying your win, amigo, but you and I, we're just getting started." Ruiz's voice slithered through the speaker, smooth, calm, dangerous. Samuel clenched his jaw. What do you need? A low chuckle. Direct, I like that. You're getting the hang of this, Sam. Rachel's fingers curled into the fabric of her jeans, her body tensed. Beside him, she didn't have to hear Ruiz's voice to know exactly what this was. There's an opening tomorrow night. Some business needs handling in Houston. You're going to be the one to take care of it. Samuel's stomach twisted. What kind of business? The kind that requires a steady hand and no loose ends. He knew exactly what that meant. Another kill. Rachel was staring at him now, eyes searching, desperate to know what Ruiz was saying. You've already proven yourself once. This shouldn't be hard. Ruiz's voice was patient, coaxing, like he was speaking to a child. You want to keep that little family safe, don't you? You want to keep winning. Samuel closed his eyes. He felt Rachel's presence beside him, grounding him, pulling at something in him that wasn't completely lost yet. Then don't make me doubt you. The silence stretched between them. Then Ruiz exhaled, the sound crackling through the line. I'll text you the details. Don't disappoint me, Samuel. The line went dead. Samuel lowered the phone, his fingers numb. Rachel was staring at him, her expression unreadable, but the body tight with tension. What did he say? Samuel swallowed hard. Another job. Rachel flinched. Another. She let out a slow, shaky breath, shaking her head. Sam, you can't keep doing this. What choice do I have? His voice came out harsher than intended, but the weight of everything pressing down on his chest. Rachel's gaze didn't waver. We find another way. Samuel let out a bitter laugh, running a hand over his face. And what the hell does that look like, Rachel? Huh? You think I can just walk away? Rachel hesitated, but then her expression hardened. You're not the only one with something to lose. Samuel blinked, caught off guard by the fire in her voice. I don't want to lose you to this. She reached out for his hand again, gripping it tightly. I don't care what it takes, Sam. We'll figure something out. Samuel swallowed. Ruiz isn't the kind of man you just walk away from. Rachel exhaled sharply, her voice tightened round his. Then we walk. Then we don't walk, we run, we plan, we think, we find a way out before it's too late. Samuel looked down at the joining hands, something deep inside of him cracking. Rachel still believed in him, even after everything, even knowing what he had done. She wasn't letting go. Samuel's throat tightened. If we do this, he exhaled slowly, there's no turning back. Rachel nodded. Then we do it right. Samuel let out a slow, shaky breath, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something that had been missing, a way out. But escaping Ruiz wouldn't be easy. And the next test, it would decide everything. Samuel sat motionless, Rachel's hand still gripping his, the weight of her words settling in his chest like wet cement. We find a way out. He wanted to believe it, wanted to cling to it like a lifeline. But Ruiz wasn't just a man, he was a force, a shadow that seeped into every crack of a person's life until there was nothing left untouched. Still, Rachel's grip was tight, unwavering. She was right. If he didn't find a way out, there wouldn't be later. A soft buzz from the phone shattered the silence. Rachel stiffened. Samuel's pulse slowed, dread settling in his stomach. The message was short. Tomorrow night, 11:45, East End Warehouse, Houston. No mistakes. Samuel's throat went dry. Rachel glanced at the screen, her brows furrowing. What does he want you to do? Samuel hesitated. A job. Rachel's lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak right away. What? Oh, guys, this is killing me here. Just bear with me. We're almost done. Rachel's lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak right away. When she did, her voice was soft but firm. Then we use it. Samuel frowned. Use what? This job, the meeting, whatever he's planning. Rachel's jaw tensed. We don't just react, Sam. We take control. Samuel let out a humorless laugh. You don't take control from a man like Ruiz. Rachel's eyes darkened. Then we make him think we're still playing his game until we're ready. Samuel stared at her, studying the determination in her face. For so long he had carried this weight alone. The guilt, the fear, the feeling that his fate was sealed, that no matter what he did, Ruiz owned him. But now Rachel was stepping into the fire with him. He didn't know if that made things better or worse, but it meant that he wasn't alone. And for the first time, he had a plan. The hours passed in a blur. The weight of what was coming pressed against Samuel's ribs, a reminder that every second counted. Rachel paced in the dimly lit living room, chewing her bottom lip. We need to know what he's expecting from you tomorrow night. Samuel leaned against the wall, rubbing his temple. If it's before, it'll be a test, a kill, a way to push me deeper. Rachel's jaw tightened. Then you don't do it. Samuel exhaled sharply. It's not that simple, Rachel. Then make it that simple. She snapped, spinning to face him. You said it yourself. This isn't just about you anymore. The silence stretching between them, thick and suffocating. Rachel took a slow breath, trying to steady herself. We need leverage, Sam. Something to make Ruiz think twice about keeping you in his pocket. Samuel shook his head. The only thing Ruiz respects is power, fear. If we try to push back with something real, he'll crush us. Rachel crossed her arms. Then we find something real. Samuel studied her, his mind working through the impossible. Ruiz was careful, ruthless, but nobody was untouchable. If they were going to do this, they needed more than a vague escape plan. They needed an advantage, a way to make Ruiz hesitate, and the only way to do that was to step even deeper into the fire. Samuel's stomach twisted. Tomorrow night wasn't just going to be another job. It was going to be it was going to find Ruiz's weakness, because that was the only way they were getting out alive. And with that, guys, is the end of chapter 5. I know I've been promising it to y'all for a hot minute, and I apologize how long it took me to make this one. I really appreciate and respect y'all for, just showing up and bearing with it. I hope y'all enjoyed this chapter. I will be getting chapter 6 and 7 out today. 6, 7. I'm just kidding. I don't know what shit that is. As y'all can tell, I'm still hurting pretty bad. I am very happy, though, to be here and to be doing this with y'all. But as always, I'm your host, Lucian Graves, and I love each and every one of y'all. Thank you.